So we're still in the rapport step. So as you can see to my left here, when we're trying to build rapport, the first thing we want to do is create a connection. And we talked about the conversation stack and using that as a way to connect with our customer, find something in common. At the same time, we want to build our credibility, our professional ability, if you will. And we do that by doing the next two bullet points here, which are the agenda statement and the credibility statement. The agenda statement is just a brief statement that lets them know what you're going to do on the call so there's no mystery. And also make sure it's client-centric, that when they hear this agenda statement, that they realize, hey, this is for me. It's not for you trying to sell them something. So they get disarmed, they're less guarded, and they'll answer your questions more freely, which will allow you, help them get the right protection at the right price. In addition to that, we're going to then build some credibility, and we'll talk a little bit more about some statements we can use that, again, will demonstrate that they are dealing with a professional, with a reputable agency, with reputable carriers that are going to take care of them, especially if they actually have to do a claim on their policy. So let's jump into the agenda statement. I like this acronym called POINT because people want you to get to the point. And when you think of an agenda statement, just like going to any meeting, whether it's short or long, or maybe even more so when it's short, is you want to know what's the point of the meeting and what's going to happen. When you go to our meetings, you want to know what the agenda is. So a quick and easy way to remember that is using this acronym POINT. We state the purpose of the meeting. Why are we here? Why are we even taking time out of our busy schedule? Number two, we just outline what we're going to talk about. People want to know. Then we want to get their input. This should be a two-way conversation. So it's a reminder, hey, what else do you want to cover? And then at that point, we transition to the next step. In the case that we're talking about, that transition will be to the credibility step. So what does an agenda statement sound like? How short or long can it be? Let me share with you an example. So the acronym POINT: purpose, outline, input, transition. So here's kind of a guide that you can use, but if I were to verbally do this, it can be done in really just a few seconds. And at the same time, it demonstrates to the client, to that customer, that you have a process in place that's going to help them achieve what they want to achieve, which is our opening purpose. So it might sound something like this. Bob, hey, the purpose of our conversation today and what I hope to do for you is get you the right protection at the most competitive price. Now, in order to do that, I'll just give you a brief introduction so you know who you're dealing with and who CIS is. Then we'll talk a little bit about why you're looking for insurance today and what are some factors that are important to you when searching for insurance. Then we'll talk about the things you want to insure, your vehicles, your other assets, your home, etc. We'll discuss a little bit about your current policy and what you have for coverages there. And then after that, I'll be in a position to provide you some options. That way you can make an educated decision about your insurance. Does that sound fair? Well, great. What else do you want to make sure we talk about? So think about that. You want to do this in a conversational tone, and I will share with you a full disclosure. Some people say, oh, that's way too much. It's going to take too long. Well, have you ever gone through a quote and you find yourself, well, the reason I'm asking for this, well, I'm asking this because of this, or people get resistant, or even worse, you've gone all the way through. You've put the information in PL. You pull that magic slot machine lever and you hope the price is great. And then all of a sudden it's not. And now you're backtracking. Well, I'm giving you better coverage, or I'm doing this or that. Well, at that point, we've dug a hole and now we're trying to get out, and that's really difficult. So my advice is deliberately incorporate some form of an agenda statement, because if you do, it's going to give you a much better shot of closing that deal. And when you do an agenda statement, it demonstrates you're professional, and people are looking for someone who's professional when they're dealing with insurance. So again, let me just do another quick version of what this agenda statement might sound like. And I'd love to hear your version or what you're doing to set the agenda in the focus for your call. Here goes. Hey, Bob, thanks for taking time out of your day to talk about your insurance. I'm sure you were looking forward to this. Hey, it's my role here at CIS to help you get the right protection at the most competitive price. So I'll just start out, I'll give you a real brief introduction of myself and CIS so you know who you're working with. And then more importantly, we'll talk about you. What's got you looking at insurance? What are you looking to insure? We'll talk about those things from your home, from your car, umbrella policies, things like that. We'll talk a little bit about what you have in place currently and the coverages you had and how you put those into play. And then at that point, I'll be in a position where I can share with you some options so you can make an educated decision about your insurance. Does that sound fair? Hey, what else is on your mind that you'd like to talk about today? So when you look at that, it's 20 to 30 seconds, yet it sets the tone. And in fact, you're starting to build value right now. People say, how do I build value? You build it by being a professional and demonstrating that. Once we've set the agenda, at this point, we can share a short statement, and maybe it's even just one line to build our credibility before we dive into the process. Now, I know this may sound counterintuitive because you're like, why should I be selling before I know information about them? Think of this more as a movie trailer, a quick snippet that keeps them interested so they want to stay, so they want to invest the time to share with you all this information you're going to be asking. So let's jump in to the credibility statement, which falls right after the agenda statement. So the credibility statement, again, just a few seconds, but at this point early on in the call, we're going to build our professional credibility. And you could share 3 quick bullet points. Why customers like CIS, why you are a dedicated professional agent, and you might share a testimonial or an example that could build, again, your credibility. Do you have to share all 3? No. You could share the one that, based on your initial reaction from the customer, you might share the one you think is going to have the most impact or influence on them working with you. So why CIS? Let me just give you a couple of examples here, and I'd love to hear your examples when we get on our calls. So, a few reasons why people like working with CIS is because we're an independent agency, we have access to over 30 different carriers. Now, what that means to you is after understanding your situation a little bit more, I'll be in a position to select the carriers that meet your needs best and get you the best possible price. In addition to that, I've been an insurance agent for over 30 years. In fact, I've insured hundreds of people in the Garden Grove area and probably many in your neighborhood. In fact, I spoke with someone in Garden Grove just about 3 weeks ago, family similar to yours, where not only were we able to improve their coverage, we were able to actually get their rate to be about the same. And so they were pretty delighted. I hope I can do even better for you. Well, with that said, let me just ask, what's got you looking at your insurance today specifically? So I kind of put a lot of, I'll call it meat on the bone there. You don't have to share everything, but I want to give you examples of each bullet point. And you notice at the end, this is where I transition and I start asking questions about them. So when I look at the building rapport process, it starts with that greeting, right? Getting on a first name basis with them and maybe listening for and building some personal rapport. Maybe a question from the conversation stack will be appropriate. Like, hey, so how long have you lived in this area? Or what brought you to this area? And now that gives you a little bit of meat to chew on, right? So personal rapport is going up. Credibility now with our agenda statement, and then building credibility for yourself and CIS with your credibility statement. And now at this point, about anywhere from 60 to 90 to 120 seconds in, we're asking questions, but they are much more receptive to our questions. They're not going to be guarded. They are not going to hide some of those things that are really critical for you to know. The surprises like the trampoline, the pit bull, the claim they had. Oh, they forgot about that, right? All these things have a huge impact, and it's much better if you know them up front. So my challenge to you is What are you currently doing? How does it compare? How are you building both personal and professional rapport with them? Let's take a look at these techniques, and hopefully you can further develop even your game. I know you have like an A+ game. We're looking for A++, and we'll talk about how we can begin incorporating this even more, which is going to help you close even more sales.